Tell us the name of your company and what your title is.
Yeah, the name of our company is C.W. Harrison Inc. And my name's Charles W. Harrison Jr., and I'm the president.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being here today. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about how you got into the citrus industry.
Well, when I was younger and in high school, my father had a real estate partner, Eugene H. Turner, and they started farming, buying pieces of property, a lot of times old dead groves that had been abandoned. They put wells in for irrigation. They put sub-mains in so they could be watered, and they renovated these groves and put them back on the market. Some of them they sold. The ones they didn't sell, they just ended up keeping and harvesting the oranges as they matured. So as a young kid, I was, around oranges and cattle, and then just kind of became a passion of mine for the most part.
Well, that's good to hear.
Yeah.
A lot of times for some people it's just a job, but as Bobby Mixon said, he goes, it's not work to me. I like what I do. I love it, and I couldn't do anything else.
That's why you do it nowadays.
That's true. Well, so tell us some about the early days then, when you were in it and why it became a passion.
Well, I think in the early days it was just being raised with good work ethics, and it was just a good way to make a living. It was something that almost anybody could do and get paid for, with driving a tractor or working in an orange grove or picking fruit. And so in the early days, and things have transitioned a lot since then, but you didn't have herbicides, you really wasn't spraying, you were kind of dusting, you were chopping, and those things came later on in the years, and as we became more and more innovative, we became using some of that kind of stuff, and then our production continued to grow as we did.
And now you had done some work with mechanical harvesting, from what I'd heard. So tell us how you got into that.
Well, we had acquired a large tract of land, which was originally the Valencia Grove, that Hugh Coverhouse from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers had set years ago as an investment. And as we acquired that with a partner, we decided that there's just the ramifications of trying to harvest it and being an all Valencia crop, and right at 4,000 and something acres,
Wow.
we decided to look at the mechanical aspects of doing it. There was a few prototype machines out on the market, and we looked at quite a few of those. I ended up in Argentina working with converting an olive harvester over into mechanical harvesting for oranges. That was called a Mastec. And that did not work out as much. There was a company in the United States called Oxbow International that built
Right.
all types of international harvesting equipment. And so they already had a prototype on the market, and so we ended up buying that machine. And it's two machines that work as one unit. There's a right-hand side and a left-hand side.
Oh.
And so as the rule of thumb, the right-hand side guy will lead, and the other one just kind of keeps up with him, like they're basically dancing together.
So the right side makes it so the left side does know what he's doing.
Yes, exactly. That's very
Okay.
true. That's very true. But and then we did that, and then we sold the grove about 13 years later, and at that time we didn't have enough fruit or production to warrant owning a mechanical harvesting machine. And so we ended up marketing the machine and sold it to a group out of Australia that had the needs for it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Now, when you were doing the harvesting, did you have to use any abscission chemicals at that point or not?
We did experiment with some abscissions, especially stuff that we thought that we were going to harvest early.
Right.
And so that seemed to work out very well. But as we got into the season, we learned more about the machinery and how it operated, and had a comfort level with that. So we kind of backed off as we went later in the season. The mechanical harvesting machine it was easy to pick somewhere between, if you had the production, 15 to 20 semi-loads a day. The problem is there's not very many plants or hardly anything in the industry right now that can handle that magnitude of loads
Right.
from one grower. So it's something that is very production oriented to make work.
Did it harm the trees at all?
It doesn't. Once we started, we mapped out our rows and our blocks to where if we started on the south end of this block, we always started on the south end, because these are continuous fingers that run through the tree.
Right.
So we were pushing everything one way. The worst thing you want to do is come back the next year and go the other way,
Yeah.
and then you'd have broken limbs instead of just maybe bent.
Okay. Okay, that's interesting then. And in terms of the people that you sold it to in Australia, how did it work for them, or do you have an idea?
Excellent. They made some modifications through Oxbow, and I have seen numerous videos of the machine running, I mean, flawlessly.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they have an extreme labor problem, believe it or not, in Australia, so mechanical harvesting was a way for them to go.
Well, that worked out well then. I mean, we had our own problems with labor too, but I
Yes.
guess we've been able to work with that through the H-2A program and some others that I know were very prevalent in getting their beginning here in this area because of the sorrels.
That's
Steve
right.
Sorrels.
That's right.
So, so tell us a little bit more about your company's involvement in the industry, and what are some of the things that you guys are doing now?
Well, I think, we kind of started back in owning our own groves early on, and in about 1987, we ended up selling some orange groves. And the people didn't have the equipment or the knowledge at that point to take care of them, so we ended up getting into the management business in the late
Oh, okay.
80s.
Mhm.
So we started managing groves for everybody, and once we started doing that, people would call us and say, hey, I bought a piece of land. I'd like to develop a grove on it. Would you be interested in doing it? So we did a lot of development of new groves around the area for different investors. And we started doing contract caretaking and just a full-scale, grove caretaking service. We do their harvesting and everything. We set up a harvesting company back in the 90s called Tranex, which ended up being Valencia Harvesting, Inc. And we was running about 150 semi-trailers and about 15 semis. So
Oh,
we were
my.
moving quite a bit of fruit. We'd move somewhere between 25 to maybe 65 semi-loads a day
That's a
during the
lot of
peak of
fruit.
the season. A lot of oranges. But we did that. And then since in the 2000s, when the greening started hitting and we've got some freezes and hurricanes, and we just kind of scaled back a little bit.
Okay.
And Hurricane Charlie really devastated a lot of this area and kind of put people's thinking caps on and seeing whether or not they want to move forward. And so some did, some didn't. And we decided to make that decision and just use our resources as an investment to keep growing. And it's been really good for us, but this industry is getting smaller and smaller and smaller every day, and will continue,
Right.
in my opinion.
Now, when you guys were at your height, was it mainly in DeSoto County, or are you outside counties like Hardy and everything else?
We were actually in Manatee, Sarasota, Charlotte, and DeSoto.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So it covers a wide area. So at this point, do you have anything left in citrus now, or?
Yes, yeah, we still have about 800 acres.
Mhm.
We still manage about 2,500 acres for some other people, and it just enough to keep us busy and at the pace that we'd like to run at right now.
Okay. Now, you were born here, right?
I was born and raised here in Arcadia.
And how about your father?
My father was raised on a ranch right in the next county in Sarasota. That's right on the county line.
Okay.
And then, my grandfather was raised in South Carolina.
Oh, nice. What made him move the family down here, do you know?
Well, I think just he wanted to be in the cattle business, and this was such a better area for growing cattle
Right.
that he kind of migrated from Greensboro, South Carolina, down to Micanopy, just south of
Mhm, I know right
Gainesville.
where my- yep.
Started grazing some of the prairies, and then ended up finding a piece of property, about 2,400 acres, just on the DeSoto County, Sarasota County line, and started a cattle operation right there, and actually a beef slaughterhouse.
Oh, nice.
Mhm.
So now, do you still have that area?
We sold the ranch back in one of my uncles bought the ranch out back in the early 80s.
Okay.
And then so it kind of stayed in the family for a few years, and then it finally ended up selling. And we ended up, when my father sold out of the ranch with his brothers, he ended up just buying his own place and adding it as we went.
Okay, great. Now, this area has seen its ups and downs in citrus and everything, but you have a lot of colorful characters here. Who are some of your favorites or mentors, or anybody that you might want to,
I tell you, there is quite a few. The sad thing is most of them aren't here anymore.
I know, that's why I want to try to bring it
Yeah.
out, some of their memories of them.
Well, I think, my father, for one, was instrumental being in this town and knowing everybody, and that's a cool and humbling thing to me. Eugene H. Turner, the Turner family were very monumental in putting things together. And if you had a problem, they were people you could go to and they could help you solve problems. The Hollingsworth family, Clyde and VC, those are just great people. Do anything in the world for you. You see the Kerry Mike Mercer, been around here forever, just old Arcadia families that have just been here since you never met them, you just always knew them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I've seen the Turner, the Agri Center,
Yeah.
that type of thing. I mean,
Yeah.
I know that they've been very impactful in the area here.
And the Sarles family, very
Mhm.
instrumental, very large citrus growers, that just did a phenomenal job.
Right. And what kind of impact do you think your family's had on the area?
I think just being able to provide jobs and labor for people to do, we try to give to the community when we can. It's just been, all my kids were raised here, and most of my grandkids are raised here.
Oh, nice.
So it's a generation that we're proud of and a heritage, and so I hope they'll stay around here as long as we can hold on to things and do what we're doing. We're going to keep doing it.
Absolutely. And speaking of heritage, I mean, that's what we're trying to do this oral history project for,
Mhm.
just so we can have firsthand knowledge from people, what they've experienced in the industry. Are there any experiences that you've had that you want to bring out and, just to let people know how good the industry was, how hard it might have been, the changes that you've seen in your lifetime?
Well, I think a lot of times, I always look back at Hurricane Charlie that was such an impact on this community. And then I'm saying, wow, if we can sustain this, we can pretty much do anything. And we went through some troubling years of trying to rebuild and get groves and go through the greening and the diseases right there. We went through a period where fruit wasn't worth any money. We're trying to figure out why are we growing it and spending this kind of money. But, things seem to cycle and they seem to keep. So if you just stay in your backyard, do what you do best, hopefully you'll be on top whenever you cycle through this.
Let's cross our fingers, knock on wood.
Yes, please.
So, and in terms of, are you on any organizations in the area?
Pardon me?
Are you on any organizations in the area?
I used to serve on some. I've got a younger son now that's in the business with me, and he serves on most of those boards. I'm on a farm credit nominating committee
Okay.
that I serve on right now, but I've kind of stepped off of some of the boards right here.
That's kind of a relief, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, yeah.
But it's fun to be, in with everybody, so it
It
is a
is.
small community, and it's like old home week whenever you see everybody again, so,
For sure.
yes. Is there anything you want to make sure that we bring out that, in terms of Arcadia and the people and the citrus industry?
Well, I just, as a whole, I think the citrus industry's in troubled times.
Yeah.
And, if you can't, one, our costs have escalated to a point that, you try and really figure out, is this going to work or not? And at that same time, even though we're in a global market and a global economy, sometimes you can buy the same product cheaper from somewhere else. And I saw this happening years and years through manufacturing when we lost all these jobs. Now we're losing all our food source. And it's not just oranges, it's everything. It used to be a watermelon season. There's no watermelon season. You get watermelons year round. Used to be a strawberry season. There's no strawberry season. You get strawberries year round. So, we're fighting a global economy, in a global world right now. And we have got to figure out, if we're going to stay in this business, how we're going to sustain and get an edge that nobody else has that we're competing against every day.
Well, because it's not an even playing field, so that's an unfortunate thing.
It's not. It is a very unfortunate playing field. But I'd like to say that, Americans, if nothing else, and even citrus growers are innovative enough that if there's any way impossible, they'll make it work. They'll figure
Right.
out how to make it work, one way or the other, good, bad, or ugly.
Absolutely. So who are some of your contemporaries that you've worked with in the past in the industry?
Jamie Carrion was a guy that we were in partnerships. He was out of Puerto Rico, came over here, fell in love with the citrus industry and started buying and developing groves. Eugene H. Turner, him and my dad were partners. I ran the citrus operation and a lot of the farming for them, and I was a young, in my 20s and all like that growing up. And just the honor of sitting at a table watching these guys put million-dollar business deals together and being a
Right.
fly on the wall and understanding how all that works is things that, you know, you just can't learn in school. You don't learn out of a book. You have to learn firsthand. And it's, you know, humbling to know that I got to sit there and listen to some of those deals that, you know, a lot of people won't ever have the opportunity.
That must have been amazing. What, in terms of the deals itself, what did you, what impacted you the most? I mean, was it just
Well, I think negotiating skills. You know, when you're sitting down with a Tropicana, you know, and you're negotiating sometimes up to a 10-year contract, which is almost unheard of now.
Right.
But a 5-year or 2-year contract didn't matter. It was stressful for a guy that does it every once in a while, that Tropicana does all day long. So then I think sitting back and watching these guys negotiate and not show their hand all at one time and figure out what they could live with and not live with in that process, that's just something always stuck in my mind of saying, you know, there is a solution. We just got to make sure we can figure one out that both sides are going to be happy with.
That's true, absolutely.
Mhm.
So, well, I appreciate you coming in today. Is there anything else you want to make sure you
No, I
get us on
appreciate
tape?
I appreciate the opportunity. I appreciate the fact you're doing this to try and retain some of this. That you know.
Trying hard.
Yeah, but thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.